What's up guys, welcome back to another Fingerstyle tutorial. Today we're taking a look at Exile by Taylor Swift. If you haven't seen the full version I did, make sure you click the link above or down in the description. Now this song is one of my easier arrangements to play actually. It is in an alternate tuning, but once you're in that tuning, it's quite simple to play. So maybe if you're new to fingerstyle guitar, maybe you want to impress somebody or something, need something that's simple but sounds really good, this is the song I would recommend. So the tuning is going to be open G flat, but the sixth string is going to be an E flat, where it would normally be a D flat in that tuning. Okay, so if you know that tuning, or if you're already in that tuning, you can skip ahead a couple of minutes. For everyone else, I'm going to go through each string one by one and change it. Okay, so let's get started with the E string. So for this, you're going to need a simple tuner. I've just got a basic one from Amazon, or you can use an app on your phone if you've got that, but you will need something to retune your guitar. Starting on the E string, it's just going to go down half a note. So for me, on my tuner, it says E flat. On yours, it might say D sharp instead. So on mine, it's like E flat. Yours might be D sharp, but it's the same note. So I'll put both variations in the description below. Whether your tuner says flat or sharp, it will say something different. Mine say flat, so I'm going to go through all the flat tunings. Okay, so we've got E flat there. The next string, A, is going down to a G flat. So again, that's just down a little bit more past G and then G flat. Should sound like that. Next string, D. This one is only going down half a note to a D flat. So you are changing all the strings, but you're only changing them by a little bit. It's nothing too drastic. This G, the third string, is going down to a G flat. So again, just down half a step. B, the second string, I'm going to take this one down to a B flat. And then this E, this one's going down quite a bit to a D flat. So down through E flat, down to D, and then finally D flat. Okay, so there's your G flat chord, open, and then just to make this arrangement a little bit easier, I changed this to an E flat instead of a D flat for the sixth string. You want to double check your strings at this point, because sometimes when you tune these ones, the ones that you did first slip out of tune a little bit. So you just want to go through one more time, make sure they're all perfectly at the right note. Okay, sounds good. Should sound something like that. And now, because we've got a lot of the notes that we want are in open strings, it makes the song kind of easy to play, but also sounds very nice. Okay, so I'll refer to this as the first string as usual, and this is going to be the sixth string. If you're ready, let's get started. Alright guys, so let's take a look at this intro. So it's a little bit like the verse, but stripped back a little bit, and I use harmonics for it. So it sounds something like this. You just repeat that twice. So it's using a mix of natural harmonics and artificial harmonics. Okay, so if you're not comfortable with that, because this part is actually quite difficult, you can just use the open notes, which are a little bit like the verse. We'll get onto that in a minute. So you can always skip the intro for now if you don't want to do the harmonics, but I'll just explain them quickly. So we're starting off with the bass note, which is going to be the 5th string on the 12th fret harmonic. I like to do it quite hard, so I almost hit the 4th string at the same time to really emphasize that, because you want that harmonic to ring out for the entire phrase. See how you can still hear it when you're playing these notes? So make sure you hit that quite hard. Then rest your finger on the 12th fret down here. We're going to hit strings 2, 1, 2. Then using this first finger onto the 7th fret on the 4th string, harmonic there, and then back down here to the 2nd string, 12th fret. And when you hit that 4th string one on the 7th fret, try not to rest your finger on the 5th string, or you'll stop that bass note from ringing out, and it'll stop there like that. So you want to keep that just on that 4th string, so you can still hear the 5th string ring out. Okay, so that's the first phrase. Then the next bass note that we play is going to be on the 12th fret 6th string. And now we move down here for artificial harmonics. So it starts off again with the 3rd string, 12th fret. So I just rest my finger on that and then use my thumb behind to pluck the string. Then I'm adding my finger on here to the 3rd string, 2nd fret. And then you play that up here on the 14th fret. The same thing. Like that. So if you've not played artificial harmonics like this before, or pinch harmonics, it can be quite difficult. It just takes a little bit of practice. So we're going open, 2nd fret, both on the 3rd string, then back off to open, then move this finger up 1 string to the 4th string, 2nd fret, and you're going to hit that on the 14th fret on the 4th string. Then back down here to the open 3rd. So my right hand is doing the harmonics here, 12th to 14th on the 3rd fret, back to 12th, 14th on the 4th string, then 12th on the 3rd again. And my left hand is just going open 3rd, 2nd fret 3rd, open 3rd, 2nd fret 4th, open 3rd. So all together, you do that twice. And that is the whole intro. Okay, so now we're past that intro, we're getting into the first verse of the song. This is Bon Iver's part. It's basically 4 bars repeated, and the 4 bars sound like this. Let's just take a closer look at that first bar, slowly. Okay, so you notice we've got those bass notes on each beat. So for each bar there's going to be 4 of those. Okay? So on the first beat we're playing the bass note along with these 2 strings as well, the 3rd and the 4th strings. So we're going to play 3, 4, and 5 all together. That gives a really impactful start to the verse. After that, the melody comes in on the 2nd string, open as well. Hit that twice, and then again with the bass note because we're on the 2nd beat. Then again, and then the open 1st. Then we've got the bass note again. Then I hit strings 2 and 3. The melody is on the 2nd string, but I just add this 3rd string in there just to give it a little bit of depth. Then I add my 2nd finger onto the 2nd fret of the 3rd string, play that along with the bass note at the same time. That's our last bass note for this bar, and then we've got open 2nd again. So I'll play that bar slowly for you. So the only note that we actually fret there is that second fret on the third string. The rest is just open strings. The next bar sounds like this. So again, we've got those bass notes on every beat. This time, it's open 6th string instead of open 5th string. So we've got bass note, 3rd string open twice, and then again with the bass note. Now we've got hammer on. So we're going to be hitting the open 3rd string, followed by the hammer on to the 2nd fret 3rd string. Like that. From there, we're halfway through the bar, we're on the 3rd beat, and we've got another bass note. Then lifting off to open 3rd. Then we're moving this finger that was here up to the 4th string instead of the 3rd string, but still on the 2nd fret, and we're going to hit that one with the bass note, and then the open 3rd again. So I'll play those 2 bars together for you. Okay, so now we're getting into the next line of the verse. It sounds like this. So this starts off quite similar to how the verse started, but we don't play all these 3 strings here. We only play the bass notes. So we're back to this open 5th string now. That half of the bar is identical to the first bar that we learned at the verse. At this point, before we did this, but this time we're doing this. Okay, so we're still hitting the 2nd fret 3rd string and the bass note at the same time. But instead of going, we're going to do a pull off here. So you're playing those 2 notes and then doing the pull off, 2nd fret to open on the 3rd string. And then you hit open 3rd twice. So it's just a little minor difference there. For the next bar, it's quite similar. We've got that hammer on there, and then we move up again. We're just missing out a few notes near the start. So we're starting off with the bass notes twice, so that's 2 beats. Then the hammer on that we had on the 2nd bar here, so that's 3rd string open to 2nd fret. Then the bass note again, so open 6. Then take your finger off, hit open 3rd, move that finger up to the 4th string now. Hit the 2nd fret 4th string with the 6th string bass note. And then open 3rd. So you notice in the 2nd bar, the end there is exactly the same. And so that bar shouldn't be too difficult to learn if you've just learned the 2nd bar. Okay, so that is the whole 4 bars. We just play them twice, and that's the whole verse. So I'll play them all for you now. Okay, so once you play that part twice, we're getting into the chorus now. So the first part of the chorus sounds something like this. Okay, so I'll teach you that bit first. This is one of my favorite parts to play. We start off on the 5th fret, 5th string, so up here, that's going to be our bass note now. Okay. So we're starting off with the bass note, and then open 2nd string, then the bass note and the open 3rd string. Then open 2nd again. Then I take my 4th finger, so I use my 2nd finger for the 5th fret, and then I take my 4th finger for the 7th fret on the 5th string, because that's going to be our new bass note now. So going from here up to here, and we're going to hit the 5th string, 7th fret, along with the open 3rd string, and then open 2nd. So the melody is just repeating the 2nd and 3rd strings. Like that. And then we've got those bass notes underneath. Once you've played that last note there, the open 2nd string, you're going to take your 1st finger and put it here on the 4th fret of the 4th string. And you're going to hit those two strings together, the 4th and 5th. So it should sound like that. Then you're going to hit the 4th string again by itself, followed by the open 3rd string. Like that. Okay, so that part slowly. Carrying on. Okay, this part, once you've played that, you're sliding this 4th finger up to the 9th fret now. Then I do a little strum here on the 6th and 5th strings. Like, these are the same notes, but they're an octave apart, so it sounds kind of nice if you play both of them together. Then we're playing that bass note again, the 9th fret. Because at the start, when you play both of them, you're getting that 6th string ringing out for the whole bar now. That's what makes this part sound quite nice. So once you play that, you got the bass note again, then the open 3rd string twice. Then you want to move back down to the 7th fret with the bass note. So you are just up here, you're sliding back down 2 frets to the 7th fret, and you're adding this finger back on where it was before. It was on the 4th string, 4th fret. And you're basically going to hit the 4th and 5th string, sorry. But then you're going to carry on hitting the 4th string 3 more times. So once with the bass note, and then 3 times by itself. Then again, play them both together, and then open 3rd. Okay, and that's it. Okay, so let's go through those 2 bars slowly. Now we kind of start to repeat ourselves. That's the next part, it's just the same. Here, it starts off the same, so we're back up on the 9th fret, we're doing that part with both strings, and then we're hitting the bass note by itself. But this time, instead of hitting the 3rd string twice, we just hit it once. But the rest of the bar is the same. So just to highlight that part, the first time round when we get to the 9th fret, twice. Then, when we come back around and get back up to the 9th fret, you're only playing it once. That's the only difference in that bar. Okay, so that was the first part of the chorus. Now we're getting into the second part of the chorus. I'll play through it once for you just now. This part is no more difficult than the last part, so if you can play the last part, this part should be okay for you as well. Once we get to the end of the first part, we're coming here, back down to the 5th fret, but I actually hold 3 fingers down here on the 3rd, 4th and 5th strings. So I'm going to be starting off with the 5th and the 4th strings, one after another. Then on the 2nd beat, I'm going to play the 3rd string, which is also on the 5th fret here, and the bass note. And then the 3rd string twice. Like that. From there, slide up. Okay, so I've got on the 7th fret now, so I take this finger off, and then I slide these 2 fingers up to the 7th fret now. I'm gonna hit those 2 together, 4 and 5, and then again on the next beat, and then 4th string by itself twice. That's on the 4th fret, 4th string, 7th fret, sorry. Carrying on from there. So as before, we're coming up to the 9th fret. We're going to hit strings 2, open, 5, 9th fret, and then open 6 as well. So generally I use my thumb for the 6th string, and then my 1st finger here for the 5th string, and then my 3rd finger for the 2nd string. Play all those together. Then we've got open 2nd by itself, then open 2nd again with the bass note, which is the 5th string, then open 2nd 2 more times by itself, so that's. Then from here we're moving down to this shape. So this is basically one finger, my 4th finger I use, is on the 7th fret, 5th string, and then my 1st finger is on the 4th string, 5th fret. We're going to play 3, which is open, and then 4 and 5. So that's 3rd string open, 4, 5. Okay, so I'll play those 2 bars together for you. I'll try and do it slowly. From there, okay, so a nice kind of gentle end to the chorus here. Back down onto the 5th fret on the 5th string. Play the bass note twice, followed by open strings 3, 3, 2. Then 7th fret. 7th fret is going to be same as we had before on the 4th and 5th strings together. Then the 4th string by itself, still on the 7th fret, and then 4th and 5th together again. Then just open 3rd twice. Then to end off the chorus, we're just going back up to the 9th fret, do a little strum here on the 2 strings, 6th and the 5th string. Okay, and that is the end of the chorus. Alright, so I'll play through the entire thing for you. Alright, so after that chorus, we've got a little break section here before we get into the next verse. It's basically those 3 notes repeated a few times, but I like to add a little bit of harmony here, so I also play those notes underneath, so together sounds quite nice. So the pattern here, we're basically going to be hitting the first 2 strings with the bass note, and then playing 2 strings in the middle, and then repeating that with the new position. Just like that. So it's quite simple really. Getting into the first position, I've got my second finger here. It's on the 2nd string, 8th fret, and then my 3rd finger is here on the 1st string, 9th fret. So it should sound like that. First of all, we're going to be hitting just the bass note by itself. So that's going to be open 5th string, and then 4-3, and then we get into that pattern. So we've got the bass note again, but with these first 2 strings as well, and 4-3 again. Then we're going to be moving to our next chord, which is down here. So we move this finger down 1 to the 7th fret, and then that finger moves down 2 to the 7th fret as well. So now they're both on the 7th fret, 1st and 2nd strings. We're going to be hitting those 2 with the bass note again, then 4-3, and then move down 2 frets to the 5th fret, same thing. Okay, then we basically repeat that. So I'll play it with that bass note first. Okay, so get that kind of pattern into your fingers, and then we basically do it again, but instead of the 5th string bass note, it's the 6th string bass note. Okay, so nice and easy. Then we repeat again with the 5th string bass note. Then for the last bar of this break, we're just going to do this. So kind of echoing the verse again. We're starting off just hitting open strings, 6, 5, 4, 3, hammer on to the 2nd fret. Then take that finger back off, hit open 3rd, then move that finger up just like we've done it before. 2nd fret 4th, and then open 3rd. So that kind of melody should be familiar to you. Okay, and that is the whole break. I'll just play it through one more time slowly for you. Okay, so now we're on to the 2nd verse. This is Taylor's part. Structurally, it's the same as the first verse, it's just 4 bars repeated, but the notes are higher, so we play it differently. Okay, so the 4 bars sound like this. Okay, so there'll be a lot of parts that are kind of familiar, but it's just new chord shapes to remember. Okay, so we're starting off up here now. I've got 2 fingers held down. First finger is on the 9th fret of the 1st string. 2nd finger is on the 10th fret of the 2nd string. And we're starting off with the same open 5th string bass note. So I'm going to play the bass note, and then strings 1, 2, and 3 together. Twice. Then again with the bass note. From there, we're going to be hitting the 2nd string and the 1st string again, but this time, put your 4th finger onto the 12th fret of the 1st string. Then we've got the bass note again, then take that new finger off, so back down to the 9th fret here. Then the 2nd string with the bass note, then the 1st string again. Now, transitioning back to this bass note, we're going to move down here. Similar kind of structure. We've got bass note, and then the first 3 strings twice. And again with the bass note. then again, but this time we're doing a little hammer on now. On the first string, 5th fret to 7th fret. Bass note, take that finger back off, so we're back on the 5th fret here on the first string. Play the first string, and then the second string with the bass note, and then the first string again. Okay, so I'll play those first 2 bars together for you. From there, we start off repeating ourselves. Just the same up to there, but as usual, the last beat changes slightly. So instead of going, we're going to be sliding down. So to do that slide, we're going to hit the second string and the bass note together, and then slide down with your second finger from the 10th fret to the 8th fret. Then you're just going to hit that second string 2 more times on the 8th fret. Now the last bar. Again, this is quite similar to the second bar where we played, but we're just missing out those first couple of notes, like those ones. So instead we've got just that ending melody. So we've got bass note 6th string twice, then that hammer on, and then bass note 1, 2 with the bass note, and then 1 again. So I'll play through the whole 4 bars for you again, just one last time. So we're going to play that twice. Okay, so once you get past that verse, we're getting into the second chorus. This is Taylor's chorus. Again, the structure is very similar to the first chorus, but we're just playing different chord shapes because we're an octave higher now. So it starts off like this. Okay, so it's quite intimidating if you're not used to these kind of chord shapes. It is quite difficult, but it's a super reliable way to play this, and once you do get it, it's actually quite easy because it's all around the same kind of position and shape. So we're starting off with our thumb over the top on the 8th fret, bass note there, and then down here I'm on the 9th fret on the 1st and 3rd strings with my 2 fingers here, and then my first finger goes on to the 8th fret of the 2nd string. So that's what the first 3 strings sound like, and then over the top for that bass note there. I suppose you could also do something like that if you want to bar it instead, but would not recommend that, just because it would be more difficult to change the different shapes that you need. So I prefer to play it like this. Okay, so the first part, we're holding this shape and we're going to hit strings 6, then 1, 2, and 3 together, then 2, 3, and 6 together, then 1 and 2 together, so just practice that a few times. Then we're changing to our next chord at this point, which is going to be this. Okay, so I'm barring the 7th fret apart from the 6th string, leaving that open. The rest of them are barred on the 7th fret. I'm keeping this finger on the 1st string where it is, but my first finger becomes the bar, and then my second finger moves to where my first finger was here. So take that one off. This finger now moves where it was, and then that finger becomes a bar. Sounds like that. Okay, so once you get used to that transition, it is actually really easy to go between them. You just need to get used to that in movement. So it might seem really awkward when you first try it, but it is the best way to play this part, so it's worth learning. Once you get to that shape, we're going to hit strings 2, 3, and 5, followed by 1 and 2. Then we're taking these fingers off, so we're just barring now on the 7th fret. We're going to hit strings 2, 3, and 5. Then 2 and 3. Then add your second finger onto the 8th fret, 2nd string, and play 2 and 3 again. Okay, so I'll play that first part for you. Next. Okay, so for this part, we're coming up to the 9th fret. If you remember, we went 8th fret, which is the equivalent of the 5th fret on the 5th string, up to the 7th, and then up to the 9th. That's what we did on the last chorus. So that's where we are now, we're on the 9th fret. So you're in this position now from the last part, and I move my 3rd finger up here to the 9th fret on the 5th string, and I do that little strum again. But it's important that you keep these fingers where they are, because you actually want to still play those. So you play the bass notes, the 9th fret on the 5th string and the open 6 twice. Just do a little strum and hit the top 2 strings. Then you want to play the 2nd and 3rd strings twice. So that's on the 8th fret and the 7th fret. Then you can take this finger back off. Keep these ones where they are. Take that finger off, and then you're barring by itself now. This part isn't too bad. You're just going to be hitting the 2nd, 3rd, and 5th strings together, and then just the 2nd and 3rd strings. So you're going to hit them 3 times by themselves, and then again with the bass note, and then add that finger back onto the 8th fret of the 2nd string, and play 2nd and 3rd strings. Okay, so you want to really take your time with this section. Just practice playing it a lot. Then we start to repeat again. And just like before, we just play that 2nd string once. But apart from that, it's just the same. So just for a quick comparison, I played it twice there, but the 2nd time round, just once. Okay, so get those 4 bars down, and then we can move on to the next part. This is very familiar. Okay, so it's nearly identical to the end of the last chorus. We're coming down here to the 5th fret. You remember we had the 3 fingers held down on the 5th fret, 3rd, 4th, and 5th strings. We're going to be starting with 3rd and 5th together. Then we just carry on as we did before. 4, and then 3 and 5 again. 3, 2 more times by itself, up to the 7th fret. And then this is all the same, back down to this shape, if you remember. Then this little ending part. That's all the same as the first chorus. But here we add a little phrase at the end. So we're normally, on the last chorus, we ended there. But now we carry on the next beat, we're going to hit that bass note again. Then you want to bring this first finger. So it might be easiest if you use your 4th or 3rd finger for that 9th fret. And then you want to bar the 7th fret, hit the 3rd string twice, and then hit strings 1 and 2 together another 5 times with the bass notes in the right places. Then for the last note, you're just adding that finger back onto the 8th fret, 2nd string, and playing it with the 3rd string. Okay, so that's a new bar there. See how I quickly move to a different finger here, just to make it a little easier to get that last bar in there. Alright guys, good job you made it this far. We're on to the bridge section now. This is where the song gets really big and loud. It's probably one of my favourite parts to play. I'll split it into 2 parts for you. This is the first part. Okay, so the first bar, slowly. All open strings. It's the advantage of using this tuning. Okay, so we're starting off with the first 3 strings and 5th string open. Play that 3 times, then we've got 3, 5, 2, 1. Be really careful with the rhythm here, because this is actually like a triplet. So it's a little bit awkward to play. Make sure you've got the right rhythm. You might want to record yourself playing it and just listen back to make sure it kind of flows nicely. The next bar. Okay, so similar, but we're adding this finger on here. So that's the first string, 2nd fret, hitting that with the 2nd and 3rd and 6 strings open. So we're moving to that bass note now. Then you want to hit strings 2, 3, and 6 together twice. Followed by just the 3rd string open twice. Then the 2nd string open and the 6th string open together. Then we've got that slide. That's going to be 3 to 5 on the 2nd string. And you want to make sure that you use your 1st finger for that, because when we get up there, we're going to be doing this shape here on the 7th fret with these 3 fingers. So you want to make sure that they're free up there. So far we've got this. Up to the 7th fret, so you've just done that slide, and now we're on to the 7th fret on the 3rd, 4th, and 5th strings. Hitting that bass note first of all, and then the bass note and the 4th and 3rd strings together. So once you've hit all those strings, you can take those fingers off, hit the open 3rd, followed by the open 1st and the open 4th together, like that. Then move down to the 1st fret, and we're going to do a little pull off here. 1st fret to open on the 2nd string, and then up to the 2nd fret 3rd string, along with open 4th again. Okay, so from that slide, this part might be a little bit difficult because it is quite a long stretch. So we just ended there. Then you need to bring your 4th finger up here to the 5th fret on the 5th string for that bass note. So that's going to be our bass note for this part. You want to hit that along with the 3rd string, which is still on the 2nd fret here. Then you can take that 1st finger off and hit open 3rd, open 2nd with the bass note, and then put that finger back on to the 2nd fret 3rd string. Then we've got the bass note again. Then take that finger back off again and play open 3rd, followed by the 2nd fret of the 1st string now. So move that finger down to the 1st string, bass note again, and then open 1st. Okay, so it'll take a bit of time to get used to that. Try and separate the melody from the bass in your head as you're learning it, because the bass is just doing that, dead simple. And then that's the melody. Going on from there. This part is not quite as difficult, so once you've done that part, you've just hit open 1st, then you can take all your fingers off and play open 1st and 5th together. Quickly followed by a pull off on the 2nd string, 1st fret to open, then playing the bass note again, which is open 5th, then open 3rd, and then we've got this kind of repeating part, so it's going to be like this. So I'm basically playing open 1st and 2nd 7 times with the bass notes on the 3rd and 4th beats. Okay, so something like that. Then we're carrying on. This is another part with open strings only. So once you've played those repeating notes, you're gonna then go to open 3rd and 6th, bass note again, and then open 3rd again, and then basically do the same thing almost. It's slightly less repetitions now, so we're going instead of. Okay, so once we get to the 4th beat, so from the 3rd, 4th beat, we're just going to hit it twice instead of 4 times. Okay, and when you're playing it with the open 6th string on this bar, you play all 3 strings at the bottom. Whereas before, we only played the first 2. Okay, so hopefully that makes sense. I'll play up to that part now. Okay, so if it helps, look at the tab as you're learning it, and it should, if you can read the tab, it should make it easier for you to learn. Carrying on from there. so this is when Taylor comes in. I kind of mixed up the two vocal parts just to kind of bring it together to one kind of arrangement. So this is now Taylor's line, so it's higher. So we're starting in this shape here. This is on the first three strings, 7, 7, 5. On the third, second, and first strings. And we're playing that with the open fourth string bass note. So that's the first four strings together, then just the first string by itself 3 times, and then again with the bass note. Then take this fourth finger down to the 7th fret first string, hit that and slide up to the 9th fret. And when you land on the 9th fret, hit that bass note again. So we've just done the slide to the bass note and then the bass note again. Then use your first finger. It's important to use your first finger here. On the 8th fret, second string. And then we're getting back into this chord, which you will remember from the second chorus when we played that part. Okay, so it's just the same chord as before. And we're doing a similar kind of pattern on the strings. So first of all, hitting strings 2, 3, and 6. Then 1, 2, 3, and 6. Next chord is down here now. So this is a new chord. We're barring the 5th fret. And we've got our 4th finger on the 7th fret, second string. We're going to hit strings 2, 3, and 5. Then we're going to slide that finger up 1. So now we're on the 8th fret. And you're going to hit 2, 3, and 5 again. And then just 2 and 3. Like that. Okay, so that is a lot to learn. It will take you probably the longest amount of time it's going to be to learn this section of the song. I'll just play it again slowly up to that point. Okay, so now we're into the second part of the bridge. We're getting really close to the end of the song now. This part sounds like this. Okay, so it really ramps up to the kind of final climax of the song. Okay, so this part really builds up to the ending of the song. We're starting off with a lot of familiar parts. The first bar should be quite familiar. We start off with the 3rd, 4th, and 5th strings open, then the bass note, then the 3rd string, and then that repeating part again, where it's just going to be the open 1st and 2nd strings and the bass notes over the top. From there, Taylor's kind of higher vocal part comes in, and I'm just putting my finger here on the 5th fret, 1st string, and I'm going to hit that one along with 2nd, 3rd, and 6th strings. Then I'm just going to repeat that 1st string with that bass note coming in as well on the 2nd beat. Then I add my finger up here onto the 7th fret and I do a slide up to the 9th fret and hit that bass note. then the bass note again, and then back to the 5th fret. At this point, we just repeat this section. So we've got 7, 7, 5. So we learned that part in the first section of the bridge. So we're basically just playing that melody twice now, instead of just once. Then we're back up to this section. That's also identical to the first part. Now it's a kind of new section, so this is where the harmonies come in. Both voices come together. So Taylor's singing up there, and then Bon Iver is like down there. And we can also add in this note in the middle and get really nice harmonies. So we're just going to be playing those harmonies together, along with the bass note and a little filler note in between. Okay, so getting into the first shape, first finger is on the 7th fret, 3rd string, and then my 4th finger is on the 1st string, 9th fret. Should sound like that with the 2nd string open. We're going to be playing bass note, open 5th, open 4th, and then bass note again with those 3 notes at the bottom. And then open 4th, bass note again, but this time we're going to move down. So basically we're alternating these strings now. If you hear that, it's just doing that. Once we need to move, we're going down here. So keeping that same shape, we're just going to move it down. So now I'm on the 2nd fret here and the 4th fret here. Then we do the same thing. So we're going to play those 3 strings with the bass note, and then open 4th. Then we're going to move again. This time we're moving this finger that's on the 1st string up 1, and we're going to move this one up 2. So now I'm on 4 and 5. But generally we're staying the same, we're just moving 2 and 2 on here and 1 on here. We're going to hit 1, 2, 3, and 5, and then just 1, 2, and 3. So all together. Then we repeat that again, but with the 6th string bass note. Also at the end here, it changes slightly. So it's all the same up to there. The only difference is the bass note. But instead of going like when we just played the same thing twice, we're gonna move back down to the previous chord shape. So we went from here to here to here, and then when we repeated, we went here to here to here, and then back to there. So we're gonna be here, and we're gonna hit 1, 2, 3, and 6, then move back down to 2 and 4, keeping the same shape, and hit 1, 2, and 3. From there, you can release that shape, hit the open 4th bass note, and do a pull off on the 1st string, 2nd fret to open. Okay, so that whole section. From there, we're just kind of winding down now. So you've just done that bass note and the pull off, then we're going to hit the bass note again, then get into this position. This is a new one. So we've got the 1st finger on the 3rd fret, 2nd string. We're going to start by hitting that. Then you want to add your 2nd finger onto the 4th fret of the 1st string, play that along, those two along with the bass note, which is open fourth if you remember. And we're basically going to be playing this. So that's a lot of repeating notes. We're going to hit with the bass note and then 3 more times and then with the bass note again. So 5 times in total. Then a little short break and another 2 times. Then I take my 3rd finger up here to the new bass note, which is the 5th fret, 5th string. Hit that and then add my free 4th finger onto the 1st string, 5th fret, and play that just to end the song. Okay, and just as a little outro section, I just play that section again. So we've already learnt this in the past. It's the start of the first chorus. I gradually slow down as I play this part. And then just end on that 9th fret and open 6th string. Okay, so I'll play through the entire bridge for you one last time. Thank you guys for watching this tutorial. If you did enjoy it, please don't forget to leave a like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.